Hello, welcome back to Flight Pass. My name's Simon. We're over Waterloo and we left you in the last part with Wellington saying, receiving the information from Blucher that he's going to come to his support. And so even though by around about 6 o'clock in the morning, Captain Mercer said that they weren't sure whether they were going to carry on to Brussels that day or stay here, it then turns out that Wellington says, right, we're going to stand. And he sends out the order of the day. And the order of the day was to cover and protect our batteries, to establish ourselves at all times as much in advance as might be compatible with prudence. So this is the order of the day of the Royal Horse Artillery, I should point out. This was written by Lieutenant Pratt. So it's to cover and protect our batteries, to establish ourselves at all times as much in advance as might be compatible with prudence, to preserve considerable intervals between our extended files for greater security from the fire of the enemy's batteries, to show obstinate resistance against infantry of the same description, but to attempt no formation or offer a useless opposition to the charges of cavalry, but to retire in time upon the squares in our rear, moving in a direct line without any reference to regiments or nations, and when the charge is repulsed, to resume our ground. And that's what the order of the day is for the batteries. So in modern English, what does that mean? They are basically, if we're coming towards this ridge now, let's just pause here, jump out. What they're saying is that they are going to try and put their guns as far forward as necessary and prudent to be. So they need to obviously be able to see their target. So, you know, in this sort of positions along this front of the ridge, and they are to not clump together because they're going to be facing the Grand Battery of Napoleon. And of course, even though Wellington's got 150 guns along here, the Grand Battery is probably more like double that amount, but they also got the ability to concentrate where they want it to be, whereas Wellington's artillery haven't got the option to concentrate anywhere. And they will then give enough space in between each other so they're not an obvious target, and it makes it more harder for the French artillery to pinpoint them. And then they will fall back essentially into the squares or behind, if it's cavalry, they'll behind the infantry. They won't care whether it's what regiment it is. It's just they will go directly to the nearest one. So that's their order of the day. Napoleon at this time is nowhere near ready for a battle. The bulk of his armies are actually have bivouacked all the way down this road towards Genappe and eventually Quatre Bras. They're coming up this road here. There's a bottleneck, remember, at Genappe, trying to get through. And the order that Soult, Napoleon's chief of staff, gives is that they need to come up here and get into position by around about 9 o'clock in the morning. But that wasn't possible. And as we know, the weather of the previous evening meant that this the conditions of the battlefield was too wet, and they needed to let it dry out a bit. Now, interesting enough about this battlefield is, relatively speaking, of the day, it's actually smaller than most other battlefields. If you think about even just Ligny, in terms of the size. It's relatively small, and that suits Wellington's needs. He needs to be able to concentrate his lesser forces in a smaller area. So this size of the battlefield is actually a good thing for Wellington. And as we'll see later as well, the concentration of the forces means this is one of the bloodiest battles we'll see, because the actual concentration of the fighting in this area is so high. Now, I'm not sure we can see this, but I believe there's a this modern road might be cutting through, but over here it had a sunken kind of way. It doesn't look like it. We can't really see this, can we? There was a sort of a sunken track over this side, kind of protects its right flank. The valley between the two armies is around about a kilometer across, and as you can see, it subtly undulates to allow it's kind of it looks flat and slightly undulating, but there is actually a significant slope. The geology of the field is described as a silty loam, and when wet, this really clogs together. That sort of mud that sticks to your wellies kind of vibe. So it makes it difficult to maneuver your artillery through, especially down in these low areas where the water accumulates more. And this over here is, I think it's described as the Paris Wood. And this is where the Prussians will be advancing from. And this Paris Wood here across to Braine-l'Alleud over here is approximately 4 miles, just to get the perspective. Now, we'll just jump back into the helicopter and do a bit more flying. We'll go over now to Napoleon's headquarters. Now, Napoleon's headquarters was in a farmhouse called Le Caillou, and it's believed here that around about this time, 9 o'clock in the morning, Napoleon's having a breakfast, and Soult suggests to Napoleon that Grouchy B recalls. It's an interesting observation. I can't remember who made it, and this is when Napoleon turns to him and says, to his the marshals around his table, his generals, he says, just because you've been beaten by Wellington, you think he's a good general. I tell you, Wellington is a bad general, the English are bad troops, and this affair is little more than eating breakfast. Well, we can wonder whether that was an actual true statement or not, or just added on later. But this here is the where the dot is right now is the farmhouse of Waterloo. And as you can see then, if you look back up there, you're talking probably a kilometre or a kilometre and a half away from the French front line. And that's something that's very interesting as well, is that Wellington tends to be the general that's, I would say he's more hands-on. He doesn't like to delegate. We saw his interaction with Uxbridge in the previous evening. He likes to sort of observe, be close to the action. He's always in the thick of the action. He's always where the crisis point is, and he's always writing little notes to be sent off to different people. Whereas Napoleon tends to be a little more. He feels like more. I'm the man who got us to this position. Now you deal with it. So he's more of a strategic leader rather than a tactical leader. Especially at this time in his career. Now, it's believed that Napoleon believes that is delighted to find out that Wellington hasn't left in the night or in the early morning, and that he intends to stand here. And it's for a number of reasons. One of them is this wood here. He's convinced that this is a bad position because this wood to Wellington's rear would basically mean that any withdrawal from this battlefield will now be in a state of chaos, because it's difficult to maintain order through woods. And although he has got the message that the Prussians' corps might be in Wavre, he says at this time that he doesn't think they'll be able to get to here in time. Now, let's talk about the battlefield itself. In fact, we'll probably jump out at this point. So yes, we've got the battle. We've got the woods of the Bois Soigné behind here. None of these buildings were here, and you've got the classic Wellington reverse slope. Excuse me. So all this area here is dead ground in relative terms to what Napoleon can see. So from down there, the French can't see the British numbers up here. What you've got is a ridge, as I say, running east to west. Basically follow this road here. This is it's known as the sunken lane. It's the Olhain road. It goes to a place called Olhain this way, and all along this ridge is essentially the Anglo-Dutch position. And we know that Wellington knew about this position, that he's had it surveyed. The British Signal Corps have been out here surveying it, and when it comes out of the woods of the Bois de Soigné, it's the best position, first best position south of those woods, on the way towards Charleroi. So he would have been aware of this position, and it's a fortunate position as well, in the sense that it has some very good buildings in strategic positions. So, one, the troops can be behind here on this reverse slope, It also means his supplies are back here, his ammunition wagons are back here, and they're all protected from one of the key elements of the French army is its grand battery. It's basically what you can expect is, and Wellington will know this, the tactics of the French will be to bombard points on the line, concentrating points on the line, and to knock and to shake up the infantry, try and take out any batteries and all that sort of stuff. He'll then possibly do some side action. He'll attack some of the flanks, and essentially to draw reserves away from the centre, and then they will just use the Imperial Guard essentially to be the battering ram to go for the point of weakness on the line, like we saw in Ligny, and they did the same thing. They had two corps of infantry. They were attacking. The position of weakness was found, and then the Imperial Guard moved into that position. So that's what they're going to expect. So having these troops behind a ridge like this means that the French are no longer in a position to see where the strengths and weaknesses are. So they've got to come up this slope to see it. And what we then get as well is this a sort of fortuitous number of buildings. We have the Chateau of Hougoumont on the right-hand side. So this is a building almost fortified in itself, where it's got walls anyway, and it's surrounded by trees. It's got an orchard, but it's got a reasonably defensive position on his right flank forward of the slope. And in the middle, he's got the same thing. He's got a farm. It's got a quadrangle. It's easily defended, and this is La Haye Sainte, and this is again forward of the slope. So you've got two strong positions now that are going to have to, and all these strong positions are going to be narrowing the front that the French can actually attack on. And so it makes it easier to defend this section with less troops, because you're narrowing the distances involved. And then right on the left-hand side, you could argue this is the weaker side, but there is a number of, as you can see, there's a hamlet here. It's called Papelotte. It's kind of a cluster of buildings. It's not so good in terms of defense as the other two positions, but it's enough. It's a place that it makes it difficult to come through here. It's not something that it would be easier if these were all open fields on this side. But remember, this side anyway is the side right next to the wood of Paris Wood, and this is where the Prussians will be coming through. So in a sense, this would be not so much a priority for Wellington, and he wouldn't post so many troops onto this side. And the reason why he wouldn't care so much about that, because if the French wanted to try to outflank him on his left, or basically come around this way, try to get up onto the ridge here and come up this way, they now are exposed to the Prussians coming out of the woods behind them. So it makes it a very risky business for the French to try to push an attack on the right-hand side. There will definitely be a possibility that the Prussians will appear on their flank. Now, so from the position that we see then here, then I think we have two generals who know each other. Probably Wellington probably knows Napoleon a little bit better. And Wellington is going to be aware of Napoleon's tactics. He's going to be aware that his flanks are going to be threatened, but he's going to have to try to resist the urge to support the flanks too much. He needs to make sure that they hold, but hold with the minimum amount of troops moving from his reserve in the centre to the flanks, because I'm sure he is aware of the tactics of Napoleon, and that it's basically where the Imperial Guard come at the end of the day will be the crisis point, and everything else before that time is just an attempt to move reserves away from the point where the Imperial Guard will eventually attack. There's a guy, I'll just finish here. And quote you from this guy here. His name's Henri Husset, French 19th century historian, and he describes this terrain at the time. He says that he's describing basically this view here. And he says, as seen from La Belle Alliance, the road to Brussels, which goes up and down again in a straight line, seems very steep, but it's an illusion of perspective. In reality, the inclination of the slope is not very great. A horseman can ascend it at an even gallop without straining his horse or putting it out of breath. However, to the right as well as to the left of the road, the ground is extremely uneven and in many places becomes steep. It is an infinite succession of mounds and hollows, of depressions and banks, of furrows and hillocks. Nevertheless, when viewed from a height, the double valley has the aspect of a plain extended without any marked depressions between two low hills. And he says it's necessary to walk over the ground to perceive the constantly undulating formations of the ground, similar to the billows of a swelling sea. So it's very subtle ground, and maybe over the course of a couple of centuries, the constant ploughing. But you can see here, look at that slope there. You wouldn't see that, but that is actually quite a mound, and you can see that you don't need it to be too. Look there again. There's another dip here. You wouldn't notice that, but that puts you into some dead ground. And coming back up, we get to the top here, so you can see that sort of undulation. It's not even just one valley. It's almost as you say, it's like a sea, a sort of a swelling sea. Really cool. And again, you can see this dips and bumps, and now of course this mound here has taken some of this material, but if we pull away, you can sort of see what it is that Henri Husset is saying. Right, okay. What I'll do then, I'll take a quick break here, and when I get back, we will continue talking about the battlefield. We'll talk about start talking about the positions that the original troops take up. And yep, so we'll be gone for a couple of minutes, and so don't go away if you're on Twitch or if you're on YouTube. If you're enjoying this sort of stuff, then please give a like and subscribe. It is slow, I know. It's just a chat. So join me in a couple of minutes, and we will talk about where Wellington and Napoleon positioned their troops prior to the battle. Every musician is a hypnotist. Magical, non-verbal.